This is Candace Owens. I haven't seen any of these videos, so we'll see. Irresponsible police chief preps Memphis for George Floyd 2.0. Now, all right. Basically, if y'all aren't caught up with the news, what's this? Tyre Nichols? I think. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Yeah, Tyre Nichols. He was beaten to death by 5 Memphis police officers. He was supposedly pulled over for reckless driving. There's some rumors going around. There is a rumor I heard. I don't know if this is true. This might not even be true at all. But I've heard locals saying he might have been sleeping with one of the police chief's girlfriends, which doesn't really matter. I mean, all that would do is show premeditated murder. But you have to be able to prove that beyond a reasonable doubt. So they are charging the officers with second-degree murder and some kind of kidnapping charge, because once they pulled them over, they weren't really acting as officers anymore. So it's technically a kidnapping in a sense, because they're in police uniform. He can't run. If he runs, that's another charge. You know, so it's like kidnapping in a sense. Beat him to death. And now we're going to talk about what the police chief had to say in response and what Candace Owen has to say in response. So let's see.
In a while, racial riots. You know what we haven't had in a while? Racial riots. I miss racial riots, right? It's like we just need something to happen to a black man for the entire world to be on fire about it. With very little facts. And I just miss that. And don't worry, guys, because George Floyd 2.0 is potentially coming. It is potentially coming to Memphis, Tennessee. At least that's where.
Gee, I wonder why. I wonder why people might riot in the streets if this does not end in a conviction.
Where it's going to potentially start. And if you listen to this police chief who is speaking about a man, Tyre Nichols, who died 3 days after a traffic stop on January 7th, then you fully expect that anybody who rioted in the summer of 2020 for George Floyd is just waiting for the police cam footage to drop because of her words, right? She's saying, essentially, you're going to hear her in a few seconds. I'm going to note for people that are listening to this podcast and not watching it that she's a black woman. Her name's Carolyn Davis. And she's essentially saying, what you are going to see is so horrific and so bad, but please don't riot. Let's hear Carolyn in her own.
Okay, so you're already admitting she's telling people not to riot, but that's fine.
Words.
I expect you to feel outrage in the disregard of basic human rights, as our police officers have taken an oath to do the opposite of what transpired on the video. I expect our citizens to exercise their First Amendment right to protest, to demand action and results. But we need to ensure our community is safe in this process. None of this is a calling card for inciting violence or destruction on our community or against our citizens.
Okay, so that's the setup.
Okay, that sounded pretty good to me. I think she handled that pretty well.
She's saying that she expects you to feel outrage. She's basically saying your outrage is okay for the disregard to basic human rights. All of the perfect buzzwords to get people thinking that they...
Those aren't buzzwords. That's what happened, though. It was a violation of human rights.
They have every right to do whatever they want. You are rightfully outraged. You are going to see that they disregarded his human rights. And but no violence, please. Because that's just like a little safety thing at the end. It's like I'm basically saying like, whoa, you're going to be really angry. Ready your engines. Be at the edge of your... She's giving us suspense here. We're at the edge of our seat. I want to see the video. Just want to say before you see this video, guys, it's really, really bad. It's worse than you could ever imagine. There's no human response here. It lacks basic humanity. Oh, and then, of course, the fact that Ben Crump, the civil rights attorney that shows up everywhere and essentially has made himself a millionaire by stoking racial tensions in this country. Yeah, he's
Okay, I don't know who that guy is, but I'm gonna assume he's like some kind of civil rights lawyer. I'm gonna assume that the cases he works on are racial tensions that were already there, hence why the crime, a lot of these, I mean, there are crimes, why these crimes are committed by police. And I don't know what cases he's worked on. Maybe he's worked on some other stuff too, not related to the police, but I mean, I have a feeling he's not the one that's instigating the racial tensions.
already on the case, and he describes the footage as appalling, deplorable, it's heinous, and it's violent. So if you know nothing about this case, you're probably thinking, here we go. Racist white cops are going to simply stop this man for a traffic stop, right?
They weren't white cops. She's about to mention that. I know she's about to really, really just milk that fact.
Right? And just bludgeon him because he's black. That's what their language makes me feel like. If I just saw their language, absent the facts surrounding this, I would instantly say, this is going to be like something from the 1920s. Like the Klansmen just show up on a property and they just drag him out of his house and they're going to beat him just because he's black, right? She doesn't say anything about respecting the police officers, understanding that things escalated. I mean, she could have said anything here to make you aware that some other things happen. I mean, my guess is going to be that he wasn't listening to police instructions, right? And everything can escalate pretty quickly after that.
That doesn't mean, even if he wasn't listening to police instructions, let's just say that for your argument's sake, that doesn't mean he deserved to be beaten to death. Disobeying the police is not a death, should not be a death sentence.
Because police officers don't know what a suspect is thinking. They don't know how violent a suspect is going to be. When you don't listen to them and you act insane, I don't know why this is so difficult for people to understand, right? If you don't listen to them and you start acting insane and you start fighting back, they don't know that it's not an ordinary move. They don't know whether or not you are going to try to hurt them.
Well, okay, let's look this up real quick. Let's just, for argument's sake. Yeah, there were no signs of him resisting, according to the BBC. So, yeah, he did not resist arrest. I didn't think he did, but yeah, he did not resist arrest.
Or hurt somebody else. Their job is to protect the public. Maybe you're going to hurt somebody else. So I'll give you what we do know before this footage is released. Tyre Nichols was pulled over on January 7th around 8:30 p.m. for reckless driving near Rains Road and Ross Road in Memphis. A confrontation occurred during the stop, which resulted in police chasing Nichols on foot. He was later apprehended. The police department said while attempting to take the suspect into custody, another confrontation occurred. However, the suspect was ultimately apprehended. Afterward, the suspect complained of having shortness of breath, at which point an ambulance was called to the scene. He was transported in critical condition to St. Francis Hospital, where he died 3 days later. Now, that kind of says, I don't know what the footage is going to show, but I think that we can already discern that had he have complied with the police officer.
He did comply. Oh my God, Candace Owens does this every time a black person gets murdered by the police. She always has to lie about it. She always has to make up some kind of misinformation. Oh my God.
And did not start running if they did not have to chase him on foot and deal with two separate confrontations.
You don't beat someone to death for running from the cops. It is a very natural reaction for some people, even if they're doing nothing wrong, or even if they're having some minor traffic violation, doing nothing else wrong. People, especially if you're a person of color, like, obviously you're going to have a heightened fear of the police. So running from them seems like the natural thing to do, you know. Not that people should do that. I mean, obviously, if you're in your right state of mind, you should not run from the police. You're just going to get another charge. But, I mean, it doesn't mean he deserved to be killed once again.
Perhaps he would be alive, but forget all that, guys, because that's not fun. That's not fun in America in 2023. Instead, we need...
None of this is fun. What is wrong with you?
There to be racial tension, and people are at the edge of their seats. The comments under this video on YouTube. If the chief is giving everyone a warning of how bad this video is going to be, you gotta believe it's going to be really bad. Rodney King bad. Prayers for Memphis. Black prayer hands. We've heard this thousands of times before. You're just hoping the delay between now and then is long enough for people to forget. Next. Jesus, please help us in Memphis. This video is going to be even worse than I'm imagining. Those are just the first 3 comments that I'm reading that have come in under this video, just so you get an idea that what this woman did, what this police chief did, what Carolyn Davis did was irresponsible. It was irresponsible. She could have simply waited for the police footage. She could have just provided some context. She could have mentioned the fact that things, as I mentioned before, escalated.
But that doesn't matter. And she knows that this chief of police... which actually, I mean, I don't know her track record, but that speech sounded good to me. She worded that pretty well. But, you know, with the position she's in and everything, that context does not matter. He did not deserve to be executed. And he might have ran, but he didn't resist arrest. That's just not true.
But that's not what they do. That's not what people that actually are pretending that they want safety, but in all actuality, what they want is to stoke violence and to be the hero on the face on the news that says, oh, what happened? It was so bad. They don't want people to have facts. They want people to have emotion. So as I said, ready your engines, people, because it's about to get ugly in Memphis, Tennessee. All right, guys, next.
God. Okay, we're done with that. We're going on to Fox News now. All right, this is going to be the last video we do for tonight because I still got to eat. I haven't eaten yet. But just thought we'd do a little fun live for today. This is a quick little video here. It's about 4 minutes. I don't know who Paul Morrow is, but he says we need to look larger than these 5 officers. So, he's a retired NYPD inspector. He argues that it's important to look into the larger Memphis Police Department following the incident. So let's see. Maybe I haven't seen this yet. Maybe he'll have some good takes. Who knows?
We're joined now by retired NYPD inspector and attorney Paul Morrow. Paul, you did an amazing job last night on our air with our friend Jesse Waters, sort of in real time reacting to the video as it was released last night on the Waters Primetime. Now you've had some time to reflect. What are your thoughts this morning?
Well, I think very clearly the tactics were way over the top. Everybody is in agreement upon that. I think we're in the stage now where we have to start to assess the reaction. And one of the things I think is worth bringing up is that we have to look larger than just the 5 officers who've been fired and charged. And I think you have to go all the way to the top. At this point, you have to start to say, is there something intrinsic to the Memphis PD? And that's not an aspersion on the men and women of Memphis PD that are out there every day. I'm talking more bureaucratically. Because police departments generally take on the persona and atmospherics of their overhead, right up to the top of the chain. And at this point, the fact that the police chief seems to be triangulating against these 5 officers without ever taking any responsibility by saying, look, the buck stops with me. We have to do an assessment here. We have to look at the supervision.
Okay, but they're not the ones who beat somebody to death. So I think we still, I mean, sure, if you want to say this might also be a more intrinsic problem with the police department as a whole, you can certainly look into that. There's nothing wrong with that. But that doesn't excuse what these 5 cops did.
We have to look at our train. I'm not hearing that. And I think many of us in the police world would like to hear something more than I'm very upset from the very top of the food chain down there in the Memphis PD.
That's a very interesting point you're making, Paul. And of course, we have heard that it was obviously a good move on behalf of authorities there, from Chief Davis to Mayor Strickland and the DA, trying to get out there. These officers were fired and charged way earlier in previous cases, as we saw was the case in, say, Ferguson or Baltimore or Minneapolis. But specifically to your point about going larger than these 5 officers, is it your view then that this wasn't just 5 rogue officers? This is perhaps larger, more pattern or policy based?
I mean, it's possible, and I'll tell you why I sort of come to that is the fact that there are 5 of them together, right? This is a specialized unit, Scorpion unit. Generally, these specialized units are very heavily supervised because it's recognized in police practice that they are sort of the point of the spear. NYPD has had units like this as well and still does, and they're very heavily supervised. So 5 of them together, I don't know if that was their practice, but that's a lot of cops in one place.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too on it. I'm not going to lie. Like, when they said there were 5 cops involved with a reckless driving stop, like, it seemed a little sussy to me, you know? Like, it almost, was this planned? I don't know. I can't say. Wasn't there. But it does seem like something that's a little fishy to me. Like, that was really my first thought when I first heard about this case. Was, why were there 5 police officers at a reckless driving stop? You know?
A specialized unit without a sergeant being nearby takes a while, from what I see, for any supervision to arrive. And, you have to say that it does seem like they felt very free to react the way they did. And you have to say to yourself, has this happened in the past? Why did it go the way they went? I think you do have to look a little bit larger.
They clearly had little regard for knowing they were on camera, multiple cameras there.
Yeah.
And the number of things that they crossed the line on in the video we see. I want to ask you, though, before I run out of time, so where does this go? We know the DOJ is launching an investigation. Where are we headed?
Yeah, so unusually, DOJ now has announced looks like they're announcing a parallel investigation that is going to run contemporaneous here with the investigation going on at the state level. I view that as a complication at this point. Generally, the DOJ investigations come along as a follow-on. And the problem with that is that what the DOJ investigations generally default to is a federal monitorship, which means that a law firm is put in charge of keeping an eye on the police department and reforming it. And those monitorships never go away. And the law firm gets rich. There's nothing like municipal money. Those checks come in regularly. They'll charge $500, $600, $700 an hour, even after their job is kind of done. I mean, I'm not pointing to anybody specifically, but I just know how this goes. And I'm not sure at this point, so early in the game, it's necessarily helpful for DOJ to be poking at this, particularly the Civil Rights Division. They have an investigation going on. These guys are criminally charged. Let it play out.
Let it play out. We shall see where it goes. Paul Morrow, thank you.
So just let it play out with no additional investigation. Okay. Lovely. I mean, of course there's going to still be the investigation done on a more local level, but I mean, yeah, I could definitely see why the DOJ is stepping in on this one. It's pretty brutal.
Thank you for your insight and joining us today.
Thank you.
I'm Steve Ducey.
Okay, don't care. Alright. Well, that was our stream for today. If you liked it, go ahead and follow us. And we will stream more in the future. Spencer might be here at some point streaming with me. This was KSSP Podcast. Once again, if you would like to, if you have the time to, we have a survey in our bio. Oh, what's up, Secret Service? Just saw you in the chat room there. How's it going? Unfortunately, I'm ending the stream now, but I appreciate you watching. Appreciate everyone who watched. And until next time,